The night in Harran did not fall gently. It came like a suffocating curtain, smothering every street, every ruin, every breath with its oppressive weight. Rick had seen nights in Georgia where the dead wandered aimlessly through cornfields and broken highways. But nothing prepared him for this darkness, alive and hungry, pulsing with something feral that seemed to breathe alongside him. The day had already tested his body, climbing, scavenging, fleeing hordes that snarled like wild dogs. But the night tested something deeper, gnawing at the bone of his mind. The city seemed to transform. Shadows grew teeth. The empty streets bent into traps, and every rustle in the rubble whispered a promise of violence. Harran at night was not a graveyard like his world back home. It was a hunting ground, and tonight Rick Grimes was the prey. He moved cautiously, boots crunching against shattered glass and scorched concrete, each step threatening to betray his presence. The silence was unbearable, almost worse than the guttural moans of the walkers he had grown used to. Here, silence was a lie, a camouflage for creatures that did not announce themselves until they were upon you. His instinct screamed at him, the same primal voice that once saved him from ambushes and betrayals, now warning him that the city itself was alive with predators. The moonlight barely reached the alleys. Instead, there were fragments of light, a flicker from a burning barrel, the dull glow of neon signs long abandoned, only enough to remind him how much he could not see. Somewhere above him, a scream tore across the rooftops, thin and jagged like metal scraping on bone. He froze, heart pounding, realizing it was not the voice of a human. It was the cry of something that knew the night was its dominion. The sound carried with it a kind of hunger, as though it announced not just presence, but inevitability. Rick's pulse quickened, his breath shallow. He had learned long ago not to panic. Panic got people killed. Yet his body betrayed him, tightening like a snare. Then he saw it, a ripple of movement across the walls, too fast, too fluid, like a shadow breaking free from its host. The creature descended, not shambling, not stumbling, but charging with a speed so blinding that Rick's mind barely connected the shape of its elongated limbs, its gaping mouth filled with rows of fangs, its eyes glowing like coals in the night. This was no walker. This was something designed for the hunt. Rick ran. His boots slammed against the pavement as he darted down narrow corridors of concrete and rebar, lungs burning as the volatile closed in. The chase was a blur of instinct, vaulting low walls, ducking beneath dangling wires, twisting through doorways that collapsed in his wake. His body, built for combat and endurance, fought against the acrobatics Harran demanded. But fear lent him a desperate strength. Behind him, the sound of claws tearing through stone echoed, closer with every breath. He could feel the air shift when the creature leapt, its weight crashing into the ground just beyond his heels. He did not think, he reacted, hurling himself into a shattered building, tumbling through debris, scrambling to his feet as the predator shrieked outside, searching. His hands trembled as he pressed himself into the shadows, sweat mixing with blood on his face, knowing the hunt was far from over. The hours stretched like years, every second a negotiation with death. The volatiles did not wander aimlessly. They hunted with purpose, patrolling the streets like wolves in packs, their senses sharp, their patience endless. Rick learned quickly that light was both his shield and his trap. When he found an ultraviolet lamp flickering weakly on a balcony, he clung to it, the searing glow holding the beasts at bay. Yet the lamp buzzed and sputtered, threatening to die at any moment, and Rick knew he could not linger. He felt like a fugitive in a land with no laws, forced to carve his survival one heartbeat at a time. Every escape was temporary, every safe corner an illusion. Harran's night was relentless, designed to break the will of even the strongest. He began to notice things in the dark, unsettling truths. The way the creatures moved in unison, as if drawn by some unseen command. The way the city seemed to echo with whispers that could not be human. Rick had seen death in countless forms, his wife's lifeless eyes, friends devoured by walkers, men destroyed by cruelty. But this was different. This was not just death, it was transformation, an infection that twisted humanity into predators more terrifying than the grave. In the silence between chases, crouched in rubble and ruin, he wondered what kind of law could exist in a world where the night itself demanded blood. By the time dawn approached, Rick was no longer the sheriff who had once enforced order on quiet streets in Georgia. He was something raw, something forged in fire and terror. He emerged from a crumbling apartment block, clothing torn, hands bloodied, his body marked with the desperate scrambles of survival. The volatiles had retreated with the coming sun, but their presence lingered in the cracks of his mind, carved deep like scars. The city was quiet again, deceptively calm, but Rick knew the truth. Nightfall would come again, and with it the hunt. The sheriff in him longed to stand tall, to protect, to lead. But in Harran's darkness, even lawmen became prey. He had survived his first night, but the shadow of the next one already loomed. And in that shadow, he wondered if survival was victory or just postponement of the inevitable.